Hello and welcome. I'm Master Lama Rasaji, and this is our Monday edition of Rasaji Speaks. I hope you had a wonderful weekend with your family, worshiping your God. I hope you had a chance to spend a little time in nature, God's playground. Today's title is going to be From Doubt to Faith. A centurion's transformation at the tomb of Jesus. It's a biggie. We're talking about the Centurion Cornelius, right? It was a movie years ago during, some of you might remember, in the 50s or the 60s, called The Robe. The great actor, Italian actor, was Victor Mature and played Cornelius. Some of it was accurate and some of it was not. Let me give you a little background on Cornelius. Cornelius was the greatest gladiator that ever entered the Roman Colosseum. By the time he was given his freedom as a slave, he had won everything. In his last fight in the arena, he defeated a half a dozen to a dozen men but single-handedly. He was massive. He was, I would say, 6'4", 6'5", probably 275. You know, he would be somewhere between a middle linebacker and a nose guard today in the NFL, if you could imagine, but not an ounce of fat on him. Even in his 40s, as he was running, he also had three pieces of property, one in Judea, one in Rome, and then the outskirts, one in Pompeii. What he did when he achieved his freedom, he got the grace of Pilate. He had the grace and the ear of Caesar. He had the grace of the Sanhedrin. Even the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin respected him. But at the foot of the cross that day, as John the Beloved sat kneeled to Mother Mary and to Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary's cousin, there was John. And John remembered the centurion that came up and he said this man has wronged no person. He truly is the Son of God, because look at how frail and how humble he is unto death. He was given the robe, and he asked Mother Mary, Jesus's mother, could he wrap the body? Was she okay for him to take him down from the tree, from the cross? And she said, okay. She goes, I would be honored to carry him to Joseph of Arimathea's tomb that had now been given to the apostles, actually was given to Mother Mary to lay her son to rest, of what a lot of people thought. That auspicious night, as we went from twilight to dusk to real dark, Jesus's body is laid in the tomb. And Cornelius tells them to stand guard. Don't let anybody hear. He told them, I was there, heard it. Don't even let another guard come in. Even if it's sent by Pilate, the governor himself, Cornelius said, do not let anybody tempt or toy with the tomb. There's going to be, we know, insurrection. There's going to be, in the street. If they think that for whatever reason that he is resurrected falsely, see, people were already talking about resurrection. They were already, the buzzword was already out. What would that mean? So they sealed the tomb. You know what's happening several days after. Lama Ji has been for 3 years talking about Lent and about Advent, that what Jesus did, what the Lamasery did. But let's go forward now, 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, meanwhile, the Shakti pot, just like Lamaji puts in his staff, was in the robe of Christ. And he carried that robe wrapped around him all the way back to the house. Peter had heard that he still had the robe of Christ, and he really wanted that robe back. And so, beyonce to a lot of people that night and that day, for several days, Cornelius began to fast. It was very unusual. No wine he took, no grain he took, no sweet meats he took. He just drank unfermented juice. And then, unbeknownst to him, a couple of miles away was Andrew, Simon Peter, and John the Beloved. They were doing the same thing. Simultaneously, the angels guided them both to the rooftop in synchronicity. And the angels began to talk about the uncircumcision, that this was time for the gospels to be spread beyond Judea itself, but beyond just the circumcised Jewish people, beyond the chosen and to the chosen themselves. So the Centurion Cornelius summons a couple of people from his house. His house at that time, probably 30 plus people were in his house. And already Cornelius was buzzword about Jesus, about that he had believed, even though he hadn't appeared to Cornelius yet, that he believed that this was the Son of God, and that he believed that he had risen from the dead. He says, go get me Jesus's priest. And so John the Beloved come up with Simon Peter. Into the household of Cornelius they walk. And the moment that Cornelius is, this massive man lays straight on the ground with the honor and pontificate to what you would see someone doing in India to a Mahatma. Forehead on the feet. And Simon Peter looks to John, shakes his hand, and asks him to get up. He says, we are just a man. Please do not prostrate yourself to them. Several weeks before, in the upper room, Jesus Shaktipots, for the first time, more than several people. And there, all the disciples and apostles get anointed by the Holy Spirit. But they were all the circumcised, the chosen, they were all Jewish. This was the first household where the Gentiles reigned, where Roman citizens were working. Even a Grecian, a few Greeks were there. And this was going to be the shot heard around the world. This was going to be a beginning of a new spiritual revolution. This, my brothers and sisters, is one of the most significant events that happened after Christ's crucifixion. Peter and Paul began to chant, began to sing. And in the process, the Shaktipat fills the room of 30 to 40 people, and over 80% of them were not Jewish. Cornelius then would spend the rest of his years protecting as much as he could the backs of people like John the Beloved and Andrew Peter and even St. Paul later. That was a key. That's what kept the Christian movement around. He became the most incredible person of faith. And he went from all the doubt of being a Roman with statues of God to beginning to follow the living God. And his faith, just like courage is born out of fear, faith, my brothers and sisters, is born out of doubt. So if you're still doubting, don't be so hard on yourself. But then doubt goes to faith. Faith becomes knowing. And when it becomes knowing, nobody can ever take an energetic experience from you. When you experience healing like that happens in the tours, a few weekends ago in San Antonio, healings were left and right. Transformation, liberation, the soul in our souls, we are free, free indeed, so we shall be, was ringing from the rooftops. Tucson is around the corner. If the Holy Spirit is calling you, you need to raise your hand. I hope you've enjoyed today's message. Barak Bashai, may the blessings be to you and to your glorious family. Mama G loves you very much, and I will see you tomorrow on Tuesday's edition of Versace Speaks. God bless.